Hi, folks, and welcome. My name is Thomas Trafford, and this is the Cedarwood Sanctuary. Welcome to my first video. Thank you to everyone who clicked on it and is tuning in on whatever platform or whatever time frame in the future that you're looking at this during. Welcome. I'm really excited to be starting this chapter in my journey. I have wanted to do this for some time, and I haven't for a multitude of reasons that I think we might get into today. Because I think my first video here, I kind of feel very called today to talk about confidence. But first, I guess I should give you a little bit about who I am, because it is my first video, and if this is how you're finding me, you don't know who I am. So my name is Thomas Trafford. I am a medium and a intuitive counselor on Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. I am a recent-ish transplant to Vancouver Island. I was born and raised and grew up in Toronto, Ontario. And the Cedarwood Sanctuary is my gift to the world, my passion, my project. I suppose it's a place that kind of holds and births my intention for the life I want to live and the work that I want to do in the world. And we can get into that a little bit later, I guess, and I'm sure that will probably come up in other videos. But yeah, that is it in a nutshell. I came to this from a very different road. Actually, I won't bore you so much with this in this video. If you want to read more about my story, there is a very long-winded about me section on my website, which you can find at www.thecedarwoodsanctuary.ca. And you can find out some more information about who I am, how I came to do this work, and what I do. The Coles Notes version, as I said, is I'm an intuitive counselor and a medium. I'm also a Reiki practitioner, but if you're looking for Reiki, don't book it quite yet, because I need to get a new Reiki table. I don't have one in this province, so that is on the list of to-dos. But as I was saying before, also on the list of to-dos is this video via this platform. It's interesting. I started to do some kind of inspirational speaking videos like this pre-pandemic, and now it is a lot later. And I think there's a lot of things that I want to kind of explore in that and unpack and kind of share. And, I'll say this as like a general rule of thumb for what this channel is and who I am in terms of my work. My intention is always to be authentic and to be able to offer insights or thoughts on a multitude of subjects that will come up as we go, that can perhaps give you a kernel of something to chew on in terms of a different way of thinking, a different way of being. I don't love the idea of a teacher, but I now understand that a lot of that has to do with my own journey and my own kind of shadow work. And I think that in the simplest way to put it is that we all can teach each other something. So if through my content and my, diatribes, you can pick up something that you want to integrate into your life, I think that's great. That is what I would say that's the reason that I'm using this platform in this way. You know what? Let's make a pop culture reference. If you're a Walking Dead fan or any of the other Walking Dead affiliated shows, then you'll know this term. But basically, it is take what you need and leave what you don't. So the Cedarwood Sanctuary is something that I started in 2 years ago now, in 2019, as a way of kind of helping people, helping humanity. Ultimately, the intention behind that is helping as best I can all those who feel that I am the right or one of many person that can offer that help through my wisdom, my life experience, and my connection with spirit. It's an interesting world to have wandered into, and I obviously would say that I don't think that it was wandering. I think it was pretty pre-planned, but I think that the way that we get to a lot of the places that are pre-planned in our journey is kind of stumbling. And often it's odd. I'm finding the more I journey that the spots that we find ourselves in where light bulbs go on, or, circumstances are such that it doesn't make sense on some kind of mind, brain only cerebral logical level, where it's like, why did I say yes to this? What am I doing? How did I get here? Those things feel different, right? They feel a bit destined. So sometimes our brains and our life circumstances have to catch up to where we've put ourselves from some kind of other, person in the driver's seat. I would say that I think in those times, that's where your meta self, which is the term that I use for higher self, or oversoul. I know a lot of people like oversoul, where your oversoul is kind of clicked in and aligned with your kind of earthly, this incarnation embodiment of yourself. And those are really odd moments because they surprise you. I think they a lot of times you find yourself in it without really planning to, it's not something that you put on a to-do list. And, there are actions obviously that you can take toward goals and, all of the things that we all do every day. But I mean those kind of moments that are outside of that seem destined. Yeah, I don't think that I have another word at the moment for it. Aligned. Some part of ourselves, some part of our spiritual awareness, or our spirit team, or our guides, or our angels, someone's, moving some pieces around and putting some things into place without us knowing, right? Without us, as we're experiencing this incarnation and this three-dimensional version of the game of separation and ego-based identity, me, I statements as a person, that part of us doesn't always necessarily know what the fuller picture is, if you will, the entirety of our being. And I think that will be a lot of what comes up in this channel and in these videos. I think that my interest lies there, and my, offering lies there. I don't think I feel comfortable using the word expertise, but, I think that's where I spend a lot of time kind of in meditation and talking to my guides and talking to, other people at any kind of get together, and kind of diving into how each person perceives themselves as a separate little human, wearing the meat sack, and then where that goes beyond, how big, how expansive we experience ourselves. And I think that's where the idea of expanding your consciousness kind of, folds into that. And yeah, so I spend a lot of time there because I'm quite curious about it and quite interested in it, and that's where most of my work kind of leads. So, that was a very long aside, but I was trying to say that the Cedarwood Sanctuary kind of incorporates some different elements of emotional well-being. And in terms of the intuitive counseling part of it, I would say emotional well-being and mindfulness. So, I have some experience with anxiety and living with anxiety and wrestling it, I guess I can say. Although, I think now I would use the word integrating it or understanding it, unpacking it. So there's a lot in there that I can focus on. And also grief counseling and grief, the idea of death and dying, the idea of transitioning. And that gets more esoteric as I go. I mean, it's who are we in terms, that's where that comes in, of like the bigness of us, right? I'm someone who believes in reincarnation. So, this version of me wearing this meat sack is a very different one than however I incarnated last lifetime or any lifetime or a lifetime on another planet, things like that. So I think the idea behind this channel and starting to put out content like this is to kind of get into that stuff, because often with my clients, I don't, if someone's coming in for bereavement or a broken heart or what have you, life coaching, or coming in for a mediumship session where they're wanting to connect with loved ones from who've passed on or on the other side. We aren't often being like, tell me about your ideas about your galactic nature and how many lifetimes do you think you lived on like other planets before you came into this body that you're currently experiencing life through? It's not necessarily, and not that it's like not on the table for discussion. It just isn't necessarily where the discussion goes. So I've been really fortunate enough in my journey to work with some really talented healers and mediums and mindfulness coaches and life coaches. And so I have this kind of, sometimes I pick their brain about this. Sometimes we end up talking about this kind of content, but, you can always tell if you're in a room with a bunch of, spiritually minded, esoteric people, you can always tell it's kind of this like bizarre, unspoken thing where that kind of weaves its way through and divides the room when the conversation gets too galactic or too, too far into the ether, let's say. Specifically, I would say galactic. But anyway, that might have just been the people that I have found myself in those rooms with. There's a lot of people that I really respect and admire that are in the spiritual community and in the kind of esoteric world, who I will not name at this time. I had thought at some point that I was going to just be like, I love the following people and give a big list. And I absolutely give those shout outs energetically. I think hopefully you know who you are. You can feel that energy coming from me. But someone is telling me not to name names. I think that's another thing that will definitely come up as we journey together. If you stick around with me and you like my vibe and what I have to say, is talking about division. I'm very big on, so in my kind of like journey and exploration into the expansiveness of consciousness and therefore, what this is all about and who we all are and why we're all here and like what we're doing as a planet and as a collective consciousness of humanity. It's very unity based for me. I wouldn't say, earlier I referenced separation as a game, right? So the idea of the singular, separate entity that is just happens to be a human being with like language and consciousness and emotion and the capacity to love and the capacity to create, like it's not, I can't stay anymore in a place that is really individualized. I think we all have an individual journey. I think it's all like for a reason. I think the web that we all sit in at all points of our waking and I would really argue our sleeping lives is so unseen to us. It's so, I don't know. It's like a lot of human beings on this planet exist without that sense of connection, that sense of the web, right? I mean, I think of like, again, like pop culture references. I'm sure there'll be a lot of them. The Matrix, you know, so like the idea of, I mean, The Matrix was such a brilliant film for so many reasons, and it's so bang on in kind of revealing truths or the idea of truths. I mean, I know right now it's pretty like, it's kind of, I know the fourth one's coming out in the next couple of years, in this year, or anyway, in the next little while, the fourth one's coming out. And I know that people have now picked up the mantle of red pill or blue pill for their kind of like wokeness, which I think is a little separatist even in of itself. So anyway, I think we'll get into all that. But the idea of the Matrix, when, you know, any of the characters, but specifically I'm thinking of Neo, can see the world in ones and zeros, and it's like the world as it is, but it's all the same fiber. I that's my model of the universe, but just in terms of light filaments, you know. So it makes me the same as the desk, as the tree, as the bird, but also as you, and you are me, and we are all. So, I mean, I've heard some criticism to that belief structure. I know that it's a little, well, it's a lot macro. And I get the limitations or the worry there that it's too kind of like, it's too far away from the reality that each of us are living. I suppose I just walked myself into a beautiful definition of what I'm trying to do in my work, is I think I'm trying to close that gap. I think I'm trying to close that margin. And I think the more I can do that, either through this, you know, mode of reaching out to people, or through people who come into the sanctuary and are sitting on my couch, I think that it's a step in that direction, right? It's unlocking what makes us feel like we're here. If that theory is up here and we seem to exist down here, why is there that space? What is in that? I mean, I have my own ideas and theories, but again, we'll get into that. So yeah, it's really about unity consciousness as a collective, as the human collective, as we exist with, on, because of, and through Gaia, the Gaia energy. For me, Gaia is a big part of my work. Every time I channel or do a session with somebody, I have a little prayer. I mean, it's an incantation, I call it. That sounds a bit witchcrafty, but I mean, I'm fine with that too. It's a prayer, it's an incantation, it's magic. Those are all the same thing for me. I think it's just about working with energy and intention setting. And Gaia is a big part of my my incantation. So I'm someone who, in my belief structure, Gaia is completely sentient. You know, I mean, everything is sentient. You can do a reading on a house or an object, you know, that's been long buried. So I don't think you necessarily have to have like a pumping heart and blood to be sentient. Anyway, so I wanted to talk today about confidence, but first I think I'm going to pull a card. I've been really enjoying this deck recently. It's a deck that was given to me by a friend, and it's the Starseed Oracle deck by Rebecca Campbell, and the artwork is by Danielle Noel. Oh my God, guys, I recently went and found them both on Instagram. Did not know why I was not following them. Do yourself a favor and go and follow both of these wonderful souls. I am an artist and a graphic designer as well, and I wear many hats. And Danielle Noel's work is like unreal. It's like unreal. So yeah, I think that you could do yourself a favor. If you're curious, obviously I'm also on Instagram under the Cedarwood Sanctuary. That's on Instagram and Facebook. Although we'll get into that one too, won't we? I think, in an almost Russell Brand adjacent way, even though this will be much more esoteric and kind of galactic and spiritual of a channel, and less political. I think that there's no way that, the world that we're living in, as we're living in it currently, those things are not mutually exclusive. They have to overlap at some point. So I'm sure that some of that will come up a little bit here. Okay, so this is, we're going to pull a card for, I was going to say for the channel, but you know what? I'm actually hearing for the rest of the fall, the rest of the year. So we've just come out of the Pisces full moon. It's October 22nd, 2021. For anyone who needs to know that. We've just come out of the Pisces full moon, or we're on the other side of it at least, and I missed it again. I don't know what it is. It's like a joke from Spirit or the universe. I missed them. My poor crystals are here, like, coughing to be bathed in, like, the moonlight, and to have themselves cleansed. And I know that there's other ways to do it, and I do end up doing those. Since every time this happens, I talk about the full moon, I read about the full moon, I set, the idea of intentions to release and to manifest around the full moon energy. And then it seems at least 5 times a year, I'm like, oh, when is it again? And everyone's like, it was 2 days ago. And I'm like, oh, okay, so cool. Wow, that's really beautiful. Thank you, Spirit. So the card I've pulled for, it's actually funny. I think it might work in both cases for this channel and for the rest of the year. But that was the question that I asked. So for the rest of the year, the theme and what we're all needing to know, and that message is you are not alone. So the feelings of isolation, physical connection, and community, which is amazing, actually, given what we've all been going through for the past 18 months. And I've been talking to a few people who, and I feel this exact way, I agree with them, who were saying that it feels like March of 2019 in terms of projects, and some people are saying it in terms of energy, some people are saying it in terms of projects. I think there's a couple of ways that feeling is coming, but I would say that it's the same for me as well. And it's I'm not going to get too far into that topic, especially on a platform when many people have been deplatformed. So it's not a good way to come out of the gate, I'm just not going to do that one. But there's something energetically, let me say this, so regardless of any real world, realities, numbers, infections, whatever, there's something oddly energetic about, my husband was just saying before I came in here to record this, that he really misses he used to run a daycare when we lived in Ontario before we moved, a doggy daycare. And he had to shut that down in March of 2019. So there seems to be this energetic return to kind of like the project list, the things we want. I mean, the last time I think I did a video, although my first couple of videos were on Instagram, but that was around that time. It was around March, April of 2019. And there seems to be this energetic, like, snapback, almost like the last 18 months, have just been for us all on some energetic level to cocoon, to regroup, to reform. Another really good friend of mine and a healer recently told me about caterpillars and what are larval moths called? Are they also caterpillars? Anyway, like both moths and butterflies, when they are not those creatures, and when they spin their cocoon, but the reason that the cocoon's needed, she told me, was because inside of the cocoon, they completely, like with an enzyme, melt down their body, and then they rebuild their body as the moth or the butterfly, and then they break out of the cocoon. So the cocoon needs to hold in the like primordial ooze that they become when they're reforming who they are. And that conversation is coming back to me as well, being shown to me just to bring that up. So it does feel energetically like there's some kind of, I don't know, like we're coming out of hibernation or emerging somehow. And I think that's really lovely, and I think it's really powerful. Especially because there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of people that felt stuck, right? That felt like they came up to that point. I mean, I'm speaking from a North American, kind of American Canadian point of view, because that's when our kind of lockdown started. But just that kind of got their feet stuck in the cement in March of 2019. And it, for some reason, feels like it's loosened again, and we're continuing on. And that's great. And I'm putting myself in that camp. I mean, the fact that I'm even doing this, I've been thinking about it for a long time. Again, my first couple of videos on Instagram were from that time, and now I'm back. So that leads me to what I wanted to say today. First of all, back to the card, you are not alone. And where the physical connection, the connectivity in general, I think that it's really kind of being craved. I think it's coming back into the world. But I did want to talk about confidence. It keeps popping up in my mind, and I'm asking about what specifically I meant to share. And what I'm kind of hearing is along the lines of my own story. So, so I'm also being shown a memory of a conference that I went to with my mother in 2013 or something like that. It must have been. I think it was sponsored by Hay House. I think it was a Hay House event. Actually, so is this deck. Wow, I said I wouldn't mention any other. Well, it's not a direct healer, I suppose. It's a umbrella company for many. But anyway, there was many different speakers and many, I guess I can say Hay House regulars, or like Hay House big hitters, that were there. It was called the I Can Do It conference, and it was like really lovely. It was really life-changing for me. I had already begun kind of my journey, my transition into this world and this field, but a lot of what I heard there hit it home a little bit more for me. And it was Caroline Neese, right? And she was talking about faking it till you make it. And I remember at the time not really, resonating with that and thinking that it was a bit, I don't know. I was like, it's a lie, like talk about wounded, recovering Catholic, but it was like, it's a lie. And how does that kind of make sense? How does that translate? But I tried it for a little while. It was specifically about affirmations. And it was whether or not, if you say I'm beautiful, I am loved every day in the mirror, the first couple of times you say it, you're going to kind of snicker at yourself or whisper it or make a face and be like, oh, I'm beautiful, I am loved, because you're like doing the thing that you're like supposed to do for your mental health and all of that stuff, right? It's not genuine, right? There's the authenticity isn't there. You're not truly making eye contact with yourself and like believing the words. So that's what she had meant about the faking it till you make it. And I did try it for some time. And what is shocking is, spoiler alert, she was right. Because eventually it goes from being like comical untruth that you're forcing to then being kind of like a thing you do every morning, like eating breakfast or having your coffee, where you're like, oh yeah, I'm beautiful, I'm worthy, like, hi, like I'm doing the thing, I'm checking the box so I can say I did my affirmation. You're still not, you haven't, I have another friend who I work with quite closely. She's a big inspiration to me. And she gave me the idea, the term of landing, right? So like, you're not landed in it. You're just saying it to get it said, to check the box. And then eventually you're kind of, it's like you're at the grade 8 dance, you're at the edge of the dance floor and you're like, okay, all right, I do like this song. I'm like, Destiny's Child's my jam. And you're kind of like, but I don't know. I still, do I wander out there? And eventually you do find yourself believing it, like looking yourself in the eye and truly believing the statement. And one day, that's what I mean about that feeling, right? Because one day you look yourself in the mirror and you almost get tears and you're like, I am beautiful and I am worthy, or whatever my original affirmation was. And that journey is fascinating to me. So like, as much as I'm not a massive fan of the idea of fake it till you make it, I do think that it works in certain kinds of contexts. I think that you need to have the intention. That to me is where the intention, the energy behind it is going to be really important. But that's all kind of in the fabric of this confidence thing that I'm being told to talk about. So the other thing is that I'm hearing is in terms of like my journey. I mentioned before about doing a couple of videos in 2019 or 2020, I guess, or right around the pandemic starting. And I stand by them. I stand by all of my work and what I put out there. I like what I had to say, but it was really interesting to notice myself, to witness my own journey with those two videos specifically. I did about 1 million takes. I edited them for like days and days. And to the point where, I can be quite rambly. I don't know if you've noticed. Hope it keeps you around. So, I was having to edit down to like one word jumps of what I was saying because I had so much footage and I could only have a certain amount of time. And I was doing this like perfectionist thing, that when I think about it, it really had to do with a lack of confidence. I think specifically for me, my background is graphic design and marketing and advertising. And so it's a bit of a crossing the floor. It's a very like capitalist, like it's all about like Q4 results. And then, on the heels of that, I'm like, where's your pain at? And like, how can we journey together and heal? So it was a bit of a crossing the floor. And therefore, when I started to work with my mentor and started to, learn the language of spirit, I had big imposter syndrome for a long time. Who am I to pontificate at you? Who am I to say anything with any authority? And what has happened in my kind of journey is both understanding why I felt that way and then being able, like a dark night of the soul moment, to integrate that, to forgive myself for those perceived shortcomings, to heal whatever wounds were around needing the validation of being perfect or whatever. And then coming out the other side, it's a much more, you can feel a much more authentic, trustworthy, landed seat in that feeling and in that same kind of want or world or whatever the context or the thing is, if it is affirmations in a mirror or whatever. And that changes everything about it. That is the journey between putting on airs and, standing firmly in your own 2 feet. And, I was thinking of the other thing, like the Superman pose, right? That people can do before performances. I happen to know a lot of improvisers, and I know a lot of improvisers will do that before they go on stage, because there's something about the body language itself giving the, endorphins and the like chemical release in the brain and giving that kind of whatever it is, serotonin or whatever it is, that like chemical confidence booster. But I would say that's kind of the same thing, right? You're putting yourself in a physical position to be able to get this result, to be able to perform a certain way. But ultimately, that's part of the preparation for the performance. And whether or not you perceive that it made you perform better afterwards, you have to say that was a great performance, therefore I am a good performer. So for me, this comes down to trust. I mean, the one thing my mentor taught me, which is undeniable in any kind of spiritual work or, esoteric realm, is trust in the universe, trust in your meta self, trust in spirit and your guides and your angels and the galactics and all the unseen people, the fae. The fae can be playful, but anyway, the sprites and the whatever, Gaia herself, Gaia's energy, the elementals that work with Gaia, like those are all the trust in things unseen and things outside of yourself is so large. And I was speaking to a friend about this earlier, like last weekend or the weekend before, and I giggled I already mentioned being a lapsed or recovering Catholic. So the why I'm giggling around that is because I think that a synonym there is faith, and it's fascinating because I hadn't considered faith being part of it, and God, talking about authenticity. There are lots of very faithful people who betray their own proclamations of their faith in their actions and in their thoughts, and that is the difference. That's putting on airs, right? Versus the actual confidence. And so I guess my Coles notes here, my thesis statement is that the confidence is trust. If you really know who you are, I mean, this is why so many people will say, oh, like now that I'm older, now that I understand who I am, now that I understand what I want coming out of a marriage or a relationship, now that I have done all this, great work with my therapist, and now that I know who I am, things are coming easily, and I'm where I'm supposed to be, and there's this sense of like purpose, alignment, like talk about the, clicking into your meta self, and like flow. And I think that flow is truly coming from your meta self. It's truly coming from spirit. And, we incarnated with a certain plan, a certain soul group that we knew would work with and be around, a certain kind of like thing that we wanted to do while we're here. And I think that's what I mean about clicking into those moments where, you're realizing that you're really where you're supposed to be. You're really sitting in that seat. That's a very powerful place. That's a really big energy to sit in. I think a lot of people are uncomfortable sitting in that energy and shy away from it. I think there's a lot of stuff in our society that's specifically geared to keep us away from sitting in that seat and to keep us away from knowing we can and from feeling our true power. And I think that all of that deeply fascinates me. And so, yeah, I think that that idea is something I wanted to plant in your heads and to get you thinking about. It's a delicate dance, but between like intention, planning, intention setting begets some planning, begets some behavior, begets some action. But if you're going into all of that with false pretenses about what you want, false pretenses about what you can do, false pretenses about who you are, and I would say that all those things involve unhealed wounds. So if there's wounds that you're too uncomfortable to face, if there's wounds that you're too uncomfortable to kind of engage with and look at and peel back, I'm showing me the lotus flower in terms of, I know the lotus flower, the petals are also our chakras, but it's the idea of, it's more than a rose. The idea of really seeing all of your insides come out, but not in a Halloween horror way, because it is not quite Halloween yet. So the idea of the lotus flower, really digging into those pain points and those things that for some reason we've developed shame around, trauma around, whether or not we understand it. A lot of us right now as a collective are dealing with ancestral trauma, and that's not always ours from this lifetime. We don't necessarily know where it came from. It could be familial. It could be Akashic. We have our genetic family and lineage and ancestors, but we also have all of the ancestry of our soul, of all our incarnations on different planets and different continents of different races. We've all been women, men, gay, straight, the hunter, the hunted, we've all had so many experiences like that. So there's ancestral, Akashic, energetic stuff in there as well. And all of this, we need to kind of spend time. That's why self-care is so important, right? Journaling, meditating, taking an Epsom salt bath, whatever, walking the forest for rest. Oh my God, that's my favorite thing. Anyway, all those things, right? They help us get to a place where we can really look and look under every one of those petals and find all of that, that pain and trauma and those wounds and those assumptions and those stories we tell ourselves that were told to us that are narratives that don't even make sense anymore from another era. All of those things. I think once we start to dive into that, and that's where, it gets uncomfortable, right? If you are having like a dark night of the soul kind of time in your life. But by then doing that, the light at the end of that tunnel, coming out of that and really understanding, like, this is who I am. Now I know my boundaries. Now I know my triggers. Now I know why I feel certain ways in certain situations. Now I know that I do default to looking for validation from outside sources that are not coming from me, kind of thing. All of that. You get to a place where you can have, that's what I mean about the confidence. I don't mean confidence in terms of bravado or, bolstered, because that's a flex. That's a flex that is like just trying to cover immense amounts of the Hoover Dam of pain and trauma and all of the things. So I don't mean that kind of like bro-y flex that is, a patriarchal way of trying to avoid crying. Because I ain't got any time for that. I mean more like a true, real, actualized confidence that comes from knowing who you are in your entirety, including, cracks in the foundation that let the light in, right? Knowing that those curves and stretch marks and scars and all of those things make you going through that journey, get to a place that, this is what I mean about confidence, you get to a place where you're like, I am fucking wonderful and worthy and valid as we all are. And now I can, by doing all of that, I'm not putting on any more pretenses. I'm not putting on any more masks or, making up stories that I need to survive like this, and it allows you to have more compassion for others. It allows you to have more success. It allows you to step into a flow of manifestation and universal law of attraction, and get to a place where we're truly not alone. Back to our card. So I think that I'll leave it there today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have clicked on this, I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe and share. I'll be back. I'll be back to do these. I'm hoping for one a week. Let's hope for more, but I'm going to say one a week because last time I did this, when I was still kind of stumbling and doing it for reasons that weren't super authentic, I made promises about timelines that I could not keep. I mean, and plus there was a massive pandemic that came into the world, but that kind of flipped everything on its head. Anyway, hopefully I'll see you guys next week, and I hope you're all well, and think about where you're at in your journey, think about where you want to go, think about the story you want to write, the who you are, the who you want to be, and how to honestly, looking in even the dark places in the cobwebs, get there. It's a weird ride, you know. I'm just on it. I'm not better or worse than anyone, because no one is better or worse than anyone. I'm just someone who has spent a lot of time thinking about this, talking about it, researching it, and kind of meditating on it, and like talking to the universe about it. So I will happily share my thoughts. And again, take what you want, leave what you don't. And it's been a real honor to talk to you guys today, and I'm very appreciative of that. Yeah. And so namaste, and be well. Bye, guys.